Hello, everybody. You are now listening to the Overflow Podcast with Jae and Joaquin. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Overflow Podcast with some special guests. As always, I'm Joaquin, and this is
Jae.
And then right below me is, I don't know how you guys can see it.
It looks different, probably.
It's all different.
All right, it doesn't matter.
The guy with the glasses on. What's your name?
Junior.
And then the guy with the best dad hat on.
It's Rasan.
All
right, so both Junior and Rasan have been on the podcast, but now we're doing video, so now you know what they look like, not what we all look like.
It's been so long since they've been on the podcast, we finally forgave them and allowed them to come back on.
This is like quarantine look like. So like I don't really look like this. I look different if it wasn't quarantined.
Right. When it's not quarantine, he's white.
He's
I
lighter than me.
I gotta scrub off like with a loofah pad. You know what I mean?
He just confessed earlier that he doesn't bathe during quarantine, so
no,
he knows how much dirt he's got caked.
Right,
there's
so
no record of that.
So we decided to do something different this episode and invite Juice and Junior so that we can just have like quarantine conversations and talk about how it's been for us, the good, the bad, the ugly, just like straight conversations. You can see we're all home, we're all in our houses, right? Even Junior. He has a studio in his house, so he's the fancy one. I'm in my bedroom.
A button-up shirt and everything. Like he made it look like it's super official.
It's Sunday, so he got dressed for church.
I was watching Tony Evans, man.
You got dressed for house church.
I was in church when I got called for this.
Yeah, don't sleep, son. You got a pair of basketball shorts on right underneath.
It's on pause right now. Like I gotta go back after this.
He put the pastor on pause. Yo, hold on a minute. I gotta go sell crack. Jesus was talking. He was like,
"Un momento, por favor."
So what's up, guys? So Joaquin, Juice, and I, we're all in Atlanta, but Junior's in Nashville. Like right now, that don't matter. We're all in our houses.
Except when I go to work.
No, I'm just saying right now, dude. Like right now.
Oh, right now.
Right now. At this moment right now. So Juice and I are doing quarantine with wives and children.
Yes.
And then Joaquin and Junior are not.
All
right?
by ourselves.
So there's a lot of different dynamics. As you can see, we all have this quarantine beard working. Right?
Wow. I always have this beard.
Even though Joaquin always has the beard, Junior's always clean shaved. So to see him with a beard now is kind of crazy.
Kind of scary. I'm getting like Unabomber vibes. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Hey, man.
He's in a room with padding.
It's for crazy people in here.
Can't see it. Can't see out.
Right? It's all dark. The windows are
everything's blacked out. And this man has the gall to put the past on pause just because he's like, I'm about to go do my thing. Those are dangerous people.
Yeah. So what's going on, man? What's going on? How's everybody doing?
Super good.
Wow, so these guys never shut up, but they're gonna shut up now. All right, so
now that we started recording, it's like.
So all right, so let's start with Junior out in Nashville. What's going on out there? What you been up to? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Man, I've been blessed, man. I have a little bit of property, so I think the first month of the quarantine, I was going like, I guess cabin fever or what you want to call that. So I was like, you know what? I got some property. Let me go start a garden. So I started doing gardening. I've been gardening for like I know, man. Just to get my mind off stuff. Like I don't know. My brain was fried. So I was like, let me do something challenging that I've never done before. And I started gardening. I went and found out where I can pick up some horse poop for fertilizer, and I took this piece of my yard and I filled it with horse poop. So there's horse poop everywhere. And I started growing seeds, and now I have like little tomato plants and onion plants, and my neighbors started giving me plants when they saw me doing it. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. This month I'm back in the studio. I had a little change. I have 2 studio rooms, and I gave one up to a friend of mine to live there for, temporarily. And so like now I just have 1 room, and I was going nuts because I couldn't get into the studio. I had to like organize everything. So that's why I spent most of my time outside. So it's been a real change, a real adjustment. Yeah, it's been a real adjustment. So but that's what's going on in my life. Now I'm back in the studio. I got stuff organized. The house is organized again, and I'm back working in the studio. Thankfully, I have a couple of jobs from artists that I had been working with before, and that's come through now. So I'm working on that. So financially speaking, it's been a little roller coaster ride, but I think from here on out, it's going to be okay.
Because it's different for you, right? Because you're a producer, arranger, all that mixer in the studio, but then you're also a gig drummer, right? That also,
was my main,
and that was your your main money maker.
Yeah, that was my main money maker, is being a freelance drummer. That's where I make my most of my income. I mean, all last year I was on a cruise ship. I worked 6 months. I was about to go on a contract before the coronavirus hit.
Naturally, you were contracted to go back on a cruise.
I was contracted. Yeah, I was contracted to go back on April 12th, and that's out the window. And when I get those contracts, those are big money contracts that I don't have to work. Once I'm done, I don't have to work for the rest of the year. But that put me out. That put me completely out, So yeah. So now I have to like focus on doing the studio work, because that's where I'm gonna hopefully be able to survive throughout this whole pandemic thing, where everything is shut down. Nashville's, well, everybody knows now, everything's just shut down. There's no live music anywhere. So we have to like figure out how to be able to work without being a live performer.
Yeah, so and you haven't done any online concerts or none of that, right? Like just online drumming. Watch me. Yeah, I'll drum the bigger
I tried it. I tried it a little bit. I tried it, like just to, I'm not that kind of a drummer. I'm not the show off guy. I play for the music. So unless I'm creating a show where I put my own music together and then, do like a performance kind of thing, then I may do it.
You gotta
but
do,
I'm not that. I'm not that.
Like you gotta do like Cole McSween. Cole McSween. He has his cover videos. Have you guys seen them? He has his cover videos, and he'll have video of him playing the drums, and then that's on one side, and then him singing on the other side, and then him on keys. I mean, you can do all that with the exception of singing, but you can do all that and just like put those videos out, but nobody's gonna pay you.
You scat. You just bip it about.
Yeah, yo. I mean, I gotta stick with what I know at this point. Being that like we're in emergency stage, where whatever we do has to make money right away. So for me to do something like that, I'd have to like build a show. I have to like build a show from scratch, and that takes a lot of time and energy.
How long you been playing drums for?
I've been playing drums since 2000 is when I actually started to study. So probably like 2004 or so.
You ever thought you maybe doing some online teaching? Throw it up there and see if somebody bites on it, because people are at home with their kids and blah blah blah. I've seen some some major artists, like I've like a couple when I listen to the Christian radio station, whatever, like some cats that are like, you know, on the radio, they're like, hey, if you want to learn guitar lessons from blah blah blah, like, so I know, you know, some cats are doing it, you know what I mean? So maybe, you know, just put it out there, see if anybody bite.
Yeah, I thought of it. I actually did it. I had one student. I'm not crazy about teaching drum lessons for some reason.
Okay.
I'm not. It's not like a huge passion of mine.
Sure.
I rather teach piano, if anything. Believe it or not.
No, do that.
But in teaching drums, I find that the best way to teach drums is to actually play with the student.
Yeah.
And so I tried that. I have one student. I only have one student that I work with. He's really good, young guy, but he's amazing. He's a natural, so he picks up things really fast. But once we got into the online thing, we tried Zoom, we tried Skype, and there's a little bit of a latency issue with trying to play with them together. And also, if they don't have the equipment, like I sound great because my equipment, I have studio equipment. So to him, when I play and he hears me, it sounds good. But when he's playing and I'm trying to listen to what he's doing and critique on it, I really can't. Sometimes I can't even decipher the kick drum from the snare drum.
Got you.
So you know, technology-wise, there's a little bit of work that needs to be done on my end to figure that out. So it's a little bit daunting. So we actually suspended classes until we can meet again. Hopefully this will be over soon. Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting. That's have you heard from the cruise line?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. I heard from the cruise line. They're not embarking again till July 1st. So it's going to be a long time.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that doesn't mean that we'll be on July 1st.
Right.
Even though because we were going to embark on the 12th, we're like first in line. Like we don't know what's going to happen. Like we don't know what the capacity.
There was so much negative media with the virus spreading on cruise ships. So we don't know. It's like you probably don't even know if people are going to buy or jump on, be willing to go on a cruise.
You're right. It's wild. And I would too. Well, me is different because I would be going in as a crew member. But we have, like, I don't know if you guys know, the cruise ships are out there sailing. There's no docks that allow them to come in and dock. They can only come in, get gas, and get out. They're not allowing them.
So they're sailing with no one on it?
No, they're sailing with staff. See, like cruise ships have there's a law that they have to have a certain amount of people to run the ship. I think it's about 1,500 people, at least for the class of ships that I was on, which is like one of the top classes, which is like the big mega ships. You need about 1,500 people to run that ship. And that includes, you know, people that cook, people that clean, you know, all that stuff. It includes, you know, because if you're there, you have to eat, you know, right. Doctors, there have to be doctors on board. That, you know, the whole operation has to run as if you had guests. Yeah. People. So all my friends, they're, you know, with the exception of musicians, they were the last ones. They were the last ones to get to like leave. Like, I don't think there's any musicians anymore on the ships. But for a while, the musicians were entertaining the staff. They were paying them to entertain the staff. And then now recently, I think this month, they let them go. But they're out there. My friends are out there, and they're saying that they'd rather be out there. They hate that they're away from their families, but they rather be out there because it's actually no one else. Safer.
Yeah, they're probably like super safe. Yo, I was reading this article.
Yeah.
You say that about the cruise ship. I was reading this article about this this young married couple who I think they were from South Africa. I don't remember exactly which islands they went to, but it's somewhere out in I think I sent it to you, Joaquin, in like one of the Polynesian islands, Fiji, Bali, or whatever. And this was right before everything started. Right? And they asked their travel agent, like, yeah, should we still go? Because, and the guy they said the travel agent was like, yeah, don't worry about it. But this will all blow over by the time you guys get back. and now, so they went. It was a 7-day honeymoon, 7-day honeymoon at this like real bougie hotel. And they're still there. They're the only ones in the resort. So it's
Where is it?
I'll find it. I'll send you the article. They're the only ones in the resort because everybody else left. They jumped on a plane and they had to save their money just so they can afford to go to the resort. So they didn't have the money to like jump on a plane early. So they're still at the resort. Like everybody, all of the employees are still there because as long as there are guests, the hotel has to have everybody. So it's like a whole bunch of them, and like they're just getting like free stuff, free upgrades, free. Right?
I wouldn't trust that food. You know, the guy cooking, he's like, we're still here for these idiots.
No, because they still get paid. So the staff, they're not with their families, but they're still getting paid, and they're able to send money home, have their take care of things. So because there's one couple that can't afford to leave, everybody's still getting paid. So they're just like throwing stuff at them. Like,
bro.
Honestly, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I'm so confused.
It's both.
It's both,
Yo,
I guess.
I'm telling you, I was hoping that I would get on the ship on April 12th, and that even if all things break loose, I was like, I'm on the ship. You get paid every day, man. Like no matter.
Son,
I would have been in.
There's gonna be some babies made on that ship with those 1,500 people. Like something is going down on that shit where it's like, yo, you're gonna have cruise ship, COVID, babies, marriages, relationships, like COVID.
It happens on a regular
COVID,
day,
STDs, like it's popping over there.
Oh yeah. Listen.
I'm gonna tell my great grandfather.
How
my great grandfather showed up and said, "Oh, by the way, this is my son. He's gonna start living with us, and he's gonna keep it moving.
Just keep it going."
Yo, the whole love boat thing, that stuff is real, bro.
Nah, son, that's not a good look. Like
it's real.
They're gonna have their own like that's almost like an isolated country that never seen the outside world now, because they're gonna have their own immunity. They're gonna have their own immunity to things. They're gonna have their own diseases. Like they're gonna have their own stuff. Like they're gonna have to slowly come back into like population. Like what do you seriously?
We don't have to quarantine them folks to come back.
They're gonna come back like Lord of the Flies on the ship.
Yo, legit.
They got their Filipinos will be one area. That's the ship, all the Philippines.
I just sent you guys the article. All these. So Juice, now that you're pastoring, right? How have the Zoom services going for you?
You said what?
How have the Zoom services been going for you?
My real name is Rasan. They call me Juice. All right, now the Zoom services has been interesting. I got a core of anywhere with I say on average is 12 to 15 kids, right? Young adults. These young people that have decided to plug into this call, they're the real deal. Not to say that anybody who's not on the call isn't, but I want to give credit. I want to give shout out. I want to show love to my consistent 12 to 15 kids, young people, young adults that jump on. We went through there's a discipleship journal that shout out to the Square Church that they publish. Is out there for free, the digital version if you want to get it. Whoever listens is thesquare.org, and there's all of these crazy resources. So we went through the discipleship journal. I was scrambling for something that we all could get our hands on and we can get on the same page. And fortunate enough for me, the church had already published this journal. So I was like, okay, that's the first thing we could do. We finished that journal in a couple of weeks. we went from meeting every other week. No, we went from only meeting 2 times a month to now, just to help community, I decided with the virtual Zoom calls to do every week. So we increased our frequency of meeting, and I have these 12 to 15 young adults meeting on a Zoom call every week, really plugged in, going after it, answering questions. And because I noticed that we have this group of young people that's really willing to be committed, even through the circumstances, I increased my teaching. Like when I first started, like there was some core messages that I feel like are my core messages, and things that I feel like the Lord has blessed me with, that like I live with. But I didn't feel a release to preach those messages just because there was a little bit deeper. And I felt like we was in this season of starting this college and young adult ministry at the church where I had to lay down foundation.
Right.
But with these 12 people, with these 12 to 15 people, since I've noticed some like another level of commitment, this past Thursday was the first I preached one of those core kind of quote unquote, I guess platform messages for me, which was the prophetic. I did a message on the prophetic where I really dug into it, went through Bible scriptures. It's a message that I already have written down. It's not like I just wrote it. It's a message that I lived with and researched and digged out scriptures, make sure that it's foundational. Somebody like Joaquin would agree with it because I based it on scriptures and not on sensationalism, not on things of that nature. Because you can't argue with scripture.
I don't know if I like the way you said that.
No, it was intentional. It was definitely, I said that intentionally. I took
Listen, somebody gets 12 to 15 followers, or should I say disciples, and all of a sudden
popping off, right? But no, it's been really dope. And in that essence, what we've noticed, just even at the church in general, is that right now the church work hasn't slowed down. Because you're in isolation, because with the millennial and the Z generation, you want to make sure that there are I just think that the realness of being a pastor and the realness of knowing the people group that God has called you to pastor over, you also have to know what the struggles are in that people group. Those struggles can be anxiety, depression, all of and things that kind of are sublines to that, loneliness and low self-esteem. I think we all can deal with that. We all deal with it when we are in that college age, or you in that, you want to be accepted, you want to be a part of, you want community, you thrive off of relationships, you thrive off of those things. So being a pastor to that people group, you're a little bit more hands-on. You're on the phone, you're checking in with people, making sure that people is good. My wife is a co-leader with me. So she's been, doing a lot of work, picking up the phone and touching base with the females in the group and addressing some of the issues. I still check on them, but she can ask questions that'd be totally inappropriate for me to ask.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what needs to be asked, right? Especially it needs to be asked in the season of quarantine. Likewise, you know what I mean? Like one of the things that we did before, maybe 2 weeks ago, the Zoom was going really good. You see the buy-in, you see the community. And I just felt in my spirit, like, you know what? Let's have a female and a male Zoom. You know what I mean? Same day, but she taught an all-female group, or not even taught, just talked to an all-female group. I had an all-male group, and you ask the real questions, like, yo, we're a bunch of guys, I don't know what my wife talked about, but she did mention to me that the girls on that all-female group was really transparent. They really, gave it their all and dug in. And for us guys, we can ask the real questions, like, yo, how are you dealing with pornography, being home alone with a computer in your face? How are you dealing with the results of pornography, which is, pleasuring yourself? You know what I mean? Like in ministry, you dig in. You know what I mean? And I think this season requires for you to dig in on another level. And because of that, I think, we've forged some really deep relationships with the young people that we pastor, and I, on the opposite side of this, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I got 12 to 15 people that I've been and my wife have been personally walking with, and you know, my prayers is like, yo, those are my 12 to 15 leaders, because I just went deep with them in a season that could have went a little goofy, or could have went a little haywire, or they could have decided not to plug in. But here these 12 to 15 young adults said, yo, I'm in. And I'm like, I bet, like, y'all are the truth. So it's been encouraging. You know what I mean? We've had people that have never been to the live meetings that are on, you know, when I say live meetings, we have people that have never been to the in-person at the church meetings that have decided they want to be a part of the community online. You know what I mean? Like we, you know, as you guys know, you all been around churches, you're struggling with finding musicians. So there's one kid that I've never met in person, plugged into the Zoom and, you know, building him up and encouraging him because he's new to the community, new to the family. Come to find out, he's a drummer. He drummed when he was at college for church stuff. Like, I'm finding musicians. I'm like, oh man! And for what it is at our church, it's hard. Like the keys or drummers are the two biggest needs. And I'm like, oh man, like I just got a drummer. Like, this kid's with me. He's plugged in. So it's like those things are encouraging and exciting, because you just see God blessing the efforts. You see God blessing this fruit, and then you're like, oh man, here's even talent. Here's even, you know, somebody else that, you know, when you play on a platform, you're playing drums, like, you know, you're a leader. You know what I mean? So I'm plucking out leaders, you know what I mean, from an instrumentation kind of vibe, or put them on stage, having them lead worship kind of vibe. So all types of great pockets of blessings is happening through this. I'm furloughed, you know what I mean? So I'm home alone with my kid. You know, furlough is great, y'all. Like, you know, dogs, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I get unemployment. I get the bonus unemployment from the stimulus. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm home with my son. I'm married. I'm home with my wife. That has it's just like the 24 hours in a day and a day. You know what I mean? There's daytime, there's nighttime. Being furloughed at home with your wife has daytimes and nighttimes, which means sometimes, you know, sometimes is super cool. Other times is like, yo, I'm going to take a drive. You know what I mean? So me,
I want to be out.
I want to go garden.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So me and my, like, I think my son, when he drives, he's probably going to be a driver, because we've gone on multiple drives, and that's sometimes it's for good reasons, or sometimes it's just for a stress reliever. Sometimes it's simply just to give my wife a break. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let us go for a drive so she can have, you know, a half an hour, 10, 20 minutes, however long we go, for herself. And other times it's like, I need to clear my brain.
Sometimes it's give my wife a break. Sometimes I need the break.
Yeah. You know, so but that's honest, right? That's real. Like let's just keep it 100. Sometimes, like, yo, you need to maintain sanity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you find in this season, you find healthy ways to do it. And for me, it's putting on some music, dropping my kid in the car, and be like, yo, we're just good. You know, everything's cool. Just, you know, we're just gonna go for a drive. No beef. We good.
I did it yesterday. Yeah, I'm just out. I just picked up the key. Like, before the birthday, the sing along, and I was like, yeah, I'm just out. And I got a text, hey, let me know when you're headed back. Oh, I'm on my way back right now, right? Because it wasn't even like oh my God, I can't believe you left. I was like, all right, yeah. Let me know when you're on your way back. Like, yeah, I'm headed back now. I'll be there in like 2 minutes. All right, cool.
Unfortunately, we've had some really nice weather to go driving.
Could you imagine? Like, right before this joint started, and I don't know if it was the same for you, JP. In Atlanta, we had a terrible rain season in like February. You know what I mean? Like most of March, before we got quarantined. Could you imagine if it was the crazy rain? Like, dogs, I pray to God that it's not that, because I think, like, I call it the aftershocks or the shock wave of COVID. You know what I mean? People harming themselves or falling into different things. If it wasn't this weather, it would have been a lot worse.
Bro, that weather that you had, that was our tornado.
Yeah, that's Jay was telling me, like,
we're reeling from, we're still, like, my whole neighborhood, like, it's closed now anyway,
Right.
like all of our restaurants and like music venues, like everything in town in East Nashville, even some of downtown Nashville, got obliterated by this tornado.
And you talk about like literally the buildings, because Jay sent me a picture.
Oh yeah,
the buildings got destroyed.
It's disaster area. Like thousands of people are homeless right now. Like we're still battling the tornado.
Yeah, because there was a tornado, and then after the tornado,
right after a week, it was like 2 weeks later, COVID pops out.
Yeah.
So let me give you a timeline.
You didn't even get time to repair and rebuild and do none of that.
It's still in shambles. Everything's still in shambles. Like the only thing we got back.
That's crazy.
And thank God for that. The electric company really worked hard. Like the utility companies.
Sure.
They really worked hard. So we have electric and we have our water, internet is back, and water. All the essentials are back, but like all the buildings, they're destroyed and nobody's working on them. It's just destroyed. This whole area, and it's
what's that? Intense.
How have you all? How must be something with the baby. How have you all like gotten closer to God in this time? Because I mean, let's be real. Now you could take your pick. What church? Now you could do online church hopping, right? And or no church hopping, right? Just like
I mean, it's been a game changer. Having the time really to relax. Because like at first you're like trying to do a bunch of stuff because you don't know how you're gonna survive. And then at least for me, that's kind of like what I was thinking. I was like, man, I had all these gigs, like everything was working. The tornado comes, knocked off half of my gigs. COVID knocked off the other half, right? So going through the period of like not knowing at first of what's gonna happen, and then all of a sudden, like you're praying, and then God says, wait a minute, you have no other recourse but me now.
Yeah.
Like everything got stripped away. Like you have nothing. So like you don't have a choice but to trust me now. And when you give in and you actually like trust in God, then everything starts to happen. Like I tell you, I don't want to go into details about numbers, but I'm okay, man. Like I'm okay, and I'm gonna be okay for a while. Once I put my trust in God, now that I have all this rest and this security in God, like I have all the time in the world to spend at his feet. Like I don't even like the church hopping or going online or whatever. That's like secondary to me. Like me waking up and getting in God's face every morning without a worry in the world. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's chaotic outside, but in my bedroom with God, I feel like I'm in a safe zone. And it's something that I haven't experienced in a long time, that I could just put all of my trust in him and I know that I'm going to be okay.
Dude, that's so true, right? Because I even tweeted this yesterday, because like before all of this happened, right? So I like before we got on the podcast, I was sharing with Joaquin how I was like looking for a new location for Legacy Nights, right? And negotiating that. Right? I was negotiating 2 showcases actually in Nashville at the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 8.
I remember you, yeah.
It's gone, right? Negotiating shows for the artists that I manage, putting together my own tours, trying to put together a conference for September, right? And then now, like all of that is gone. Even the conference, like all that is gone.
Everything,
right?
everything's gone.
And then a trip to Poland at the end of June, right, for a wedding out there, and then other things that I was getting into over there. And now I'm like, literally like yesterday, I was literally thanking God for the ability to just like breathe, right? Because especially with the whole management thing, like trying to make sure that they're taking care of it, because they're musicians, and like you, Junior, right? They're, you rely on gigs to make money. So it's like making sure that they have shows and tours so they can pay their bills and take care of their families. And now it's like I can breathe, right? Like I was like, Lord, like, you know, I check up on my few people too. Hey, how you guys doing? Like all over the world, how's it going? But like now I don't have like the tension of having to do all that. Even though I'm still like taking care of these guys, as far as streaming and playlists and placement and all that stuff, where that's like the one main way they can make their money now. But still, it's still like all the festivals and stuff that I was able to book for them this year. Like I wasn't ready. They're already confirmed for next year. It's like, hey, look, we got gigs already for next year. We good.
2021.
2021. We need it.
Well, you know what's funny is that listening to you guys thinking about it. It seems like this is. See, I'm still working. Like you three guys are locked away at home.
No.
I still go to work.
Technically, I'm still working. I'm just working.
Well, but I'm saying you don't have to leave, right? I mean,
Right.
You know,
your business as normal as usual.
Right. Well, not just business normal, because right before all this hit, I got promoted to supervisor at work, and then I went.
Congrats, word.
Yeah. Congrats.
Yeah. So March 2nd, Joaquin's the new supervisor for the.
Oh, so that's why we got the tornado on March 3rd.
Oh, even better. March 2nd, I get March 2nd, my first day as a control room supervisor. March 4th, I leave for Puerto Rico. I'm gone a week. I come back March 11th, March 12th.
Everything
My
blew up.
My third day as GSOC supervisor.
Yeah.
March 13th, I'm supposed to go into work late because I'm covering for some of my guys. My manager calls me up. Can you come in early? They just unleashed the COVID-19
Right now.
line. And we've been going.
We couldn't even record the podcast for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, because, I mean, it was just – I was working 12, 13-hour days every day.
So wait. So soon as they made you salary, you worked more.
Yes.
Can I have my hourly back for a minute?
No,
Get that
not even
overtime
that.
back.
So then they announced, hey, all overtime is double time.
Dang. So you didn't get it.
No money.
No, did you get hazard pay or anything?
Oh, man, I got regular.
Nobody gets hazard pay.
Nah,
I keep looking outside because there's this kid. I'm like, I keep seeing this kid riding around on his bicycle with like a full mask. He's not a mask on his face, like a full mask.
Yo, I just brought out my helmet. I haven't honestly, I haven't been out
Ski mask.
in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. I think I've been home for 2 weeks straight, like not even to the supermarket. So like I was like cleaning my house and I found all my like motorcycle helmets. I'm like, yo, this is like gold now. So I'm gonna be out there I'm gonna be driving my truck with a motorcycle helmet.
Like, yo, it has a filter on it, right? It has a breathing filter.
Oh, it's a full face mask, man. It's like full face. It's like big.
If I was outside, right, I'm just there like at the car, whatever, and I turn around, I see this guy on a bike with a mask covering his face. Yo, like real quick, split second, I'm back in New York. Yoki somebody up.
Nah, yo, Junior, you go into the supermarket with that mask on, somebody's gonna make a meme out of you. Don't you go in the supermarket with a helmet on.
I'm
gonna be like, we know that guy.
I'm gonna go viral.
Nashville memes, like, yo.
Either a meme or attack, right?
Yeah, but back to anyway. My original thought was listening to you guys talking about kind of like time, right? Time is it seems to be the theme, right?
Yeah.
And as I was listening to all this stuff, you know, people thought, I had all this stuff to do or this stuff, I wanted this stuff. Now all this stuff is gone. It's almost it's a nice way to take this time, especially for you guys since you're at home, not going anywhere. To really, I mean, it's a good way to think about like, okay, so what are my projects or what are the things that I've been doing that are important, that are crucial, and maybe some things that are just kind of like, you know what, I've always wanted to do that, but it doesn't fit into the overall kind of stuff that I'm trying to accomplish when I get once I can, I hit the streets, and they open it up for us to kind of get a little bit more back to normal and try to line things up and set things up and
Well, with me, I started paying more attention to my Polish lessons, and then that thing back there,
the box
Playing the guitar.
the guitar.
Okay.
Guitar. Like I strung it up again. I tuned it. I got the Fender app for lessons. So when it's quiet and it's chill, the kids are resting, whatever. Like I'll come upstairs, I'll get the guitar, put out the app, and just sit there trying to learn at least the basics. I don't think I'll have time for anything else. And or if not, I'll get on my iPad, put the headphones in, and like take some more Polish lessons. And like that's and then also like it's funny. Before this started, I was approached about a book, right? Writing the book. And the week that we went into lockdown, I was supposed to have a Zoom meeting with my editor. Right? Oh yeah, we assigned you an editor this day, and then boom, everything shut down, whatever. Now I was like, hey, I'm like 2 chapters in, like, we can still do a Zoom meeting for editors. Like, yeah, we're gonna have to get back to when all this is done because like a lot of people were laid off, right? Some people were fired, we shut down, working from home. So I mean, I'm gonna stay writing. If anything, I'll self-publish.
Yeah, you'll be better prepared.
I'll self-publish if I have to, or just like
throw it on Amazon.
Drop it on Amazon as an ebook or something. But yeah, those are my
things. Is dead anyway. Throw it up on the cloud.
Those are my things. And then I started like a one-on-one version of this. Right? I started the AOJ podcast, which wasn't supposed to be a podcast, it's supposed to be a YouTube show. But we can't go outside, right? And while we're here, like we're doing the podcast, like now that you guys, thank you for coming on last minute. We're doing the podcast like this. So I decided to just keep it going, just to keep myself busy, right? Because our generation, it's funny, our generation, we're more of a fix it, right? Or get over it generation.
You can adapt.
Whereas the generation after us and after that, right, the anxiety and the fears and all that creeps up a little more for them. But for us, right, we adapt fast. So this isn't working, we keep it going. But I can honestly, like being in here, I can see how anxiety can really like eat away at your psyche, eat away at your faith, eat away at your thoughts, right? Like it's a real thing.
Especially if you're not being productive with anything, right? Because I think that's I mean, and I'm not saying busy work.
But then also like
there's nothing wrong with that either. Sometimes
like our generation, we're probably the last generation to go out and like make real friends and real relationships, right off the bat. Where a lot of the generations after us, a lot of their relationships are virtual, right? So right now when this is a time where you need real relationships, right? You need to be able to like call somebody or text somebody and say, yo, like this thing is bugging me out, right? Like I'm like I gotta do something. I gotta whatever, right? We can go like when Juice hit me up and we had the 6 foot apart hangout, right? We can do that. Whereas after us, we can go. Hey man, let's go to buy Chick-fil-A drive-through and then sit in the parking lot, right? I mean, we laugh at it, but it's needed, right? Because that's as far as we can go. So it's needed at this time where we can do that, right? But we're able to do that. If you can't, and the bulk of your relationships or the reality of your relationship is all virtual, Instagram, social media, Snapchat, right? right now, as when you're locked in, that stuff gets old fast. Like it gets old fast, and and you could be there, and your message isn't seen, it's not seen, or you don't want to reach out because the depression and the anxiety of having to be locked in gets too much. A lot of introverts right now are living it up. A lot of extroverts that hit me up are like, yo, like this is like I'm going crazy, just like stuck at home. Like, dude, like find a new hobby, like read a new book.
Go out and walk with a stick so you can keep people 6 feet away from you.
Go ahead, Rasan.
Yeah, thanks. It's even, I think like we have to do like, I agree with you. The two generations, millennials and Gen Zers, like they're dealing with anxiety and things on another level. But I think there's two parts to the coin, right? Like I think what I'm finding out in discussions that I'm having with people our age is that the reason why stuff like Zoom call ministry and things like that is successful is because I went into their wheelhouse, that they are like a digital generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're okay. You know what I mean? They're okay with jumping on, but like, dude, like I've had to talk myself off the roof. Like I've never experienced anxiety and all this crazy stuff, but like just to think that like my money, my income, the provision for my family is coming from me on the phone, checking in with the Department of Labor, which you can't call, you can't verify, you can't do any of those things that says you can talk to a live person, they can punch in their system because they're not picking up. Like my company alone furloughed 2,300 people. Unemployment rate, the people that's trying to hit up Georgia Department of Labor right now is bananas. So there was a moment where I got the letter, I got everything that confirmed it, but I'm like, yo, where's the mail? Like I'm checking the mail every day, like is the check coming in the mail, or did my direct deposit go through? Like is it gonna come? And my wife is like, yo, no, it's coming. You got the letter, it's good. And I'm like, okay, that's easy for you to say. If this check money don't hit the bank, you're gonna be looking at me like, what did you do? What's wrong? Why didn't it come? And I'm sitting there tripping in my mind, and I can feel it happening in my body. I'm like, yo, I just need to know. The first check came Thursday, Friday-ish. It hit direct deposit. And I was like, okay, now I can relax. Now I know that everything is happening in that cycle. Everything is going to turn over. Every week I check in. All right, I'm good. Because there's a moment where like, yo, it's just in the wind. Like you got the document. Like I'm old school because I am a Gen Xer. Like I needed to confirm, like I needed to check in with somebody. Let me get somebody on the phone. Yes, Mr. Shamley, everything is good. You know, it should be there soon. And I didn't have that ability because of just how much flow is going to the department that I needed to confirm that, hey, no, you and your family's money is good. You're going to be fine, blah, 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 blah. Like I was freaking out, bro. Like tripping.
And think of our age and older people who, I mean, so you know, and I haven't seen any numbers, but yeah, suicide rate has got to have jumped up. I mean, I don't know how much, you know, times
they say that it has,
right? Because now you've got
any amount is horrible. Any amount is too much.
But I'm saying it was just like, you know, because you know, it's like that double-edged sword, right? Yeah, you got time now to sit home and to contemplate and go, you know what? Once all this is out, I know I need to focus on these things to like make my life better, or to keep moving forward, or serve God, or make money, whatever it is. But on the, you know, and everyone's always talking about the young folk. Sometimes I seem to forget about our age, kind of the 45 and up group who work, and now they have none of that. And like Rashawn was talking about, you know, they got how do I provide for my family? Because if they make too much money, they don't get anything, right? And so now you got well now what am I gonna do? How am I gonna support?
That's real. Yeah,
you know,
and that's real.
And you know, and it's funny how I think that, you know, we you know, both groups have anxieties, but they're so different. And I think we so sometimes tend to focus on just the one group. We forget about the older group, right? Because they're not so technological.
It's there. It's don't think that it's not happening, because I think we focus on that younger group because it's known that potentially that's like their thing. Like that's the qualms or that's the burden that generation has to carry. But no, for the older people, for people that are just like like I had another friend who made six figures. And he's thinking about the money that he's thinking about the money that people get. And he's like, well, if you work for minimum wage and the government is giving you $600, you're making more than what you would have made when you were at work. Versus I made six figures, so I have this monthly budget and income and lifestyle, and I'm only getting, the 365 plus the 600. He was like flipping out. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm just grateful for that. For me, that was like, dude, this is actually like in my mind, I'm like, this is miraculously enough.
Yeah,
and I'm just grateful that this is enough.
You hear that? And like real quick, John Chris, check your heart. All right.
That's it. That is absolutely right.
Right. And then also check your lifestyle, right? Because if you had the money to live this lavish lifestyle and now you don't, then
pare down.
Yeah. Bring it down. Bring it down. Have your lifestyle match your income.
I had somebody tell me, well, how are this? How are people supposed to live with only that little bit of money and because they didn't work or they didn't do this? Talking about lower, maybe some lower income. And I thought, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, right? If you're spending way too much, you need to learn to pare down. But if you're on the other end,
you might need to save up.
You need to save up. You need to
absolutely.
Like don't
me and Jay. Yeah. I mean, we joke because Angel one time told us how was it after Maria that everybody's complaining about having no money.
Yeah.
And then the new iPhone had come out, and then they were all lined up to get the new iPhone. But then at the same time, they're talking about, well, we don't have, we don't have
food, we don't have water.
We don't have water. We don't have money anymore. Where's the money? It's that priorities, right? I mean, that's a very kind of extreme example, but it's.
But you're right though, because I know somebody who wasn't making a lot, and now
making more now.
They were furloughed, and now they're making more money. And then they were like, I swear, I was just talking to Magda about this. We're a little bit scared and concerned, and just a little bit anxious because they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with all this money. I'm like, yo, you save it.
Pay off some bills.
Right?
or better yet, like
pay off what you need to pay off. Right? You budget it. You pay off what you need to pay off, and you save it. Save the rest.
Or better yet, invest it. So like what happened with me, there were three things that I did. Like as soon as this whole thing started, the first thing I did was I put God first. And I say that, I know it sounds cliche or whatever, but when we had all this stuff to do, music, getting on the ship, practices, drumming, performance, music production, all that. I had a lot of stuff. And even when I had time to spend time with God, all this stuff was on my head.
Right.
Plus taking care of the house, taking care of my dog. It was just a lot of stuff. When all this stuff went away, that I was left like pretty much with nothing. The first thing that when I prayed to God, I was like, how am I going to survive? And the first thing that came to my mind was, you put me first. You put God first. I'm like, you can start from scratch now, like start all over, put God first. Like when you wake up in the morning, like, I started reading about, first fruit, and I started studying on first fruit and how that, cause that's Old Testament, but all those principles still apply to our lives now. And okay, so how do you apply first fruit to now? I'm like, how many hours do you have in a day? You have 24. Give me the first hour. That's your first fruit. When you get a new gig, give me your first fruit. Like whether you invested into the kingdom or whatever, just give me the first thing that you get.
One of the things. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to stop you.
No. I mean, that as that, those are one of the principles that came to just me getting closer to God first, before I do anything else. And then the other things, on the not spiritual level, was use what you have. Like, I've already given you everything you need to survive. Like, you don't need anything else that's out there. And this is just me personally, like, I can't say that for everybody, but for me, like, I have a studio and I have the skills to use it. I have a home, thank God for that. And I have property. And this is me thinking like apocalyptic level, right? like there's no food. This is me thinking there's no food. What are you going to do? So the garden thing came out of, what if there's no food? Go plant some. You have a little bit of property. It's a backyard. It's not big. I don't have an acre, like, it's small, but I'm like, grow your own food, and you'll get healthy food at some point, and you'll be able to give food to your neighbors. Right. So I was like, and you could step out of the house when you're going crazy, like, cause you're going crazy right now, so like, and I started doing those things. I was like, put God first every morning, put God first, hone my skills for get my studio ready, and go plant. And those three things kind of created a balance for me. And as I'm doing those things that God said I could do, then other things started working for me. But it wasn't until I put God first that I wasn't seeing anything until I put God first. Then my perspective completely changed.
Yeah, I think that's so in my opinion, and what I preach to my young people, and what obviously preaching it, I'm ministering about it to my young people, I had to walk in it first. And it goes kind of along with what you said, is that this is a great, interesting moment for a Christian, right? For a Christian, this is this can be seen as the wilderness, right? It can be seen as everything stopped. And what are we going to do in this time, right? What are we going to do to be like, my biggest question is, how is the Christian going to come out better on the other side of this? If you don't come out with a deeper relationship with God, if you don't come out, saying that I spent more time in the Word, I spent more time in prayer, if you don't come out and, being evangelistic, and being part of a revival culture, it's my, I guess, imprint that I feel like I'm getting from God, the revelation that I feel like I'm getting from God, is that when this is over, people are obviously going to be hungry and thirsty for community. But also, the world has been stripped of some of their vices, right? Like, people haven't been able to get fresh and go spend money on all of these clothes and go out to the club. Like, yeah, you can still get some liquor from the liquor store or whatever, but for the most part, people haven't been able to him going out, wilding out, drinking, partying, but they're going to be still looking for and asking for community. And I think for me, I see it as, this is the time where we prepare ourselves, where we get deeper with God, where we get revelation, because when the doors of the church open, or the world opens, and that's the flesh and blood of God's church, of Jesus's church, people are going to be wanting to communicate. They're going to be wanting to congregate, whether if that's at work or whether that's inside the church building. I think the church building is going to see an influx of new people that's just saying, you know what, this has sucked. I need community. And there's going to be some of those whose mind has changed, who God has opened them up in a different way and say, you know what, I'm going to go to church because I'm not going to run. I realize that I don't need to spend money on the dopest outfit, the most expensive sneakers, and then go flaunt that off to prove my self-worth.
You're hitting too close to Jay.
I feel attacked.
No, right? Like, I really think people are going to be seeking and hungry for something different. And it's I want to get closer with God, and I want to have a deeper relationship with God, not for that, but being able to think about, maybe this is, let me get deeper, let me get closer now, because God gives us foresight to say what's to come. So I'm not getting deeper or growing in God because I want to be that guy for those people. I'm doing it out of an organic heart, but also with wisdom to say, I also want to be prepared.
Right.
So we're going to go ahead and start wrapping it up, but I got two thoughts. The first one is, and this is for later, and Juice, we can all get back together and talk about this. Because me and Jay have talked about this, and I'm sure you have thoughts. How do you transition your 15 Zoomers, let's say, right, as the example, into 15 live people together, right? How do you transit? Because it is so much easier for a lot of people just to do what we're doing and just going, well, I don't need to go to a physical place anymore. So it's something to think about. I think we could touch on later.
We can touch on it, because I've had young people.
Is how to make
Juice, like, the age, young people that will be at your young adult services tell me like the exact opposite. Oh no, well, this just shows us that we don't need to go into a building. Like, we don't need a church building to be the church or to have church. And I'm like,
right. So we're gonna put a pin on that. That's a great topic. but I'm curious, because Juice is actually in that, right? Like, how is he thinking? How do I translate this?
15 viewers to 15 bodies.
To 15 bodies. And then the second thing I want to point out, and I think it's great. It fits along. We had church yesterday, and one of the verses that the pastor used was in Acts, chapter 1, verse 4, and it says, "And while staying with them, he ordered them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which he said, you heard from me. For John baptized with water, but you will be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now." And the idea that what you've all touched on, right, is the idea that, well, since I'm here, I'm waiting, right? We can't depart yet. So while we're here waiting, putting God first, waiting, what is it that God has for us, so that we're ready to unleash it, like Juice was talking about, unleash once we step out, into the world, time to prepare, right? This is our time for preparation. We're waiting, right, for the Holy Spirit to visit for when we are loosed, right? Loosened to the world. So that's that. I'm done. That's all I got.
All right. I want to just drop this on Juice, man. I really commend you for doing what you're doing. Just on a side note, because a lot of churches are having all these services and there's so many people watching, but there's no discipleship program for all the people that's watching. So that's really cool.
Thank you.
15 people. That's
all you need.
15 souls is a lot, man.
That's all you could. I mean, if you're gonna touch them and be organic and be able to call and check on them on a weekly basis, blah 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 blah. Like that's so, like, you can't do much more than that.
That's bigger than any major service you can see online, that there's a ton of people watching, but nobody's really discipling. You know, that's amazing, man.
So,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
So that's it. Anything else to say, Jay, before we sign off?
Yeah. I just,
All right, good. Thanks, everyone. No.
You stupid. Also, right, like I've walked with Juice, and we've done ministry for a couple years now. So it's dope to hear you like talk this way, because I know how hard, like, you just, like, he hasn't mentioned it, but like he just started being the young adult pastor at his church, and while he was allowing them to like get to know him and like try to build relationship, then he started coming in to like start strengthening the foundation of his vision and what he wants to do with the young adults. Then this happened, right? Mm-hmm. Transition was like one of those things. So the transition to video is one of those things that we talked about a few times. So props.
Yeah, man.
And that's another thing, right? I've been saying this a lot since this whole COVID thing happened, that that my prayer is always that fear doesn't make you lose your faith, but actually helps you to focus your faith, right? And right, I just want to commend like all of us here in this group that have actually done that, right? Have actually done that. Have actually seen this as an opportunity to get closer to God, to go in deeper with the relationships and the work that we're doing for the kingdom, and see this as an opportunity. Like not many Christians that I speak to that are experiencing this as well with us, and even leaders, pastors, whatever. A lot of them are not thinking about the after, right? They're not thinking about the after. Like a lot of pastors that have bigger churches and have, their leaders over a bigger flock, they're preparing for the after. But not a lot of people are seeing this as an opportunity to think about, once everything is lifted and we can meet and we can gather again, what do I do? What's going to happen? How are we going to work this? And props that that at least the four of us are in that mindset. Yes, we're building and we're preparing and we're getting deeper, closer now, so that once the flock or the flood of people come in, right, then we're already prepared, because we used all this time to prepare to be there as leaders in light, for that time. So and that's the one thing. Great conversation. I know I called you guys in last minute. Thank you for saying yes. But, for everyone that listens, because even though Joaquin and I joke around, like we actually do have a lot of listeners. We do have a lot of listeners. I look at those numbers and I'm like, why are you guys listening to us? But I thank you. I thank you that you are.
Keep listening.
Right? I thank you that you are, so that you can take that away, that like at least the four of us here who are in different positions of leadership and in different positions of, I guess, in our walk with God, that we're all in one accord when it comes to like keeping God at the center, right? Keep your focus on getting closer to Him, so that when we come out of this at the end, we're prepared to be leaders in light. We're called to be salt and light anyway. So we're prepared to be leaders in light, so that the lost that are looking for relationship, that are looking for community, that are looking for hope, right? They're looking for hope, right? They can look to us so that we can point them to that light, the person that keeps us in relationship and the source of our hope. So thanks again, guys, for jumping on last minute. It was funny. Like we were like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Yeah, let me reach out to these guys. Because
it's organic. This is an organic group.
I know that these guys can jump on.
It's like Junior's garden.
It totally is.
Well, all right, so we're gonna close it down.
Close it down, Joaquin.
All right, ready as always. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Overflow Podcast. We are so glad that you were with us. Thanks to Junior, to Rasan, who we call Juice. So glad that you guys were here. It was great. We had great conversation, and I love how at the end, as always, we're able to kind of dig at some of those spiritual truths.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Joaquin. Next to me is
Still Jay.
Peace till next week. We love you guys.
Peace out. All right, so now take the recording off and let's talk to you.
Thanks for listening. Remember to go to theoverflowpodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast on all streaming platforms and catch up on all the links of the week. And don't forget to follow our playlist on Spotify.